Hello Wastelanders! We are here today for the fourth and final video covering Lima Detachment, an Enclave-themed quest mod by Mr.ColonelMustard. In today's episode, we will concern ourselves with one thing, exploring Outpost Zulu, an Enclave outpost in the glowing sea. This gets its own episode because there are a lot of twists and turns to exploring Outpost Zulu. The castle may seem like an unlikely starting place for this journey, but we need to get out into the Boston Harbor because what we found is that we need a special door code to be able to enter the outpost. A copy of that code can be found in a sunken Enclave submarine out in the harbor. So let's put on our diving suit and get out there and see what secrets the U.S.S. Liberator has to share with us. As we dive down to examine it, I think one of the first things you'll notice is that this does not look like the design found in the nucleus of Far Harbor. This looks like a much smaller and more conventional U-boat style design, something that kind of harkens back to a World War II era submarine. But something we already know is that this is in fact a nuclear sub, and it was scuttled because its nuclear fuel rods were depleted and it could no longer function. So inside here, as we look around, we see Mr.ColonelMustard's usual touches, and I will explore this with you a bit, although we won't examine it in full detail, because really we're here to get a password to get us into the hatch of Outpost Zulu. The quest marker lies just ahead on the corpse of the ship's captain, but I have to note how loaded for bear this submarine is. Mini nukes, power armor sets, lots of ammo, etc. Okay, examining Admiral Hawkes, we find the cache hatch key, and, there's some other typical lootable things, but of note is Admiral Hawkes' uniform, which of course I have to take. Now once we take it, we discover that Admiral Hawkes had been ghoulified down here in his own nuclear submarine. Who knows for how long? Like after he scuttled the ship? Long before he scuttled the ship? It wouldn't be very Enclave-like to allow a ghoul to be a captain of a submarine, but maybe it was out of necessity. You know, his uniform had a lot of coverage. Maybe down here in his submarine he was able to keep it a secret from the Enclave, his condition. I don't know. But I do love this submarine design. Look at how the ballast tanks are just down there under the grated floor in this submarine. Mr.ColonelMustard had some really cool touches in here. I'll let you examine them in more detail. There are plenty of things to, loot, find, have, so have fun with that. If you're wondering what's displaying on these monitors, it's just the repeated order to abandon the ship. It talks about the ship's status being compromised. It talks about how the captain has ordered an abandoned ship. So that's the story with those. Alright, the periscope design looks great up there too. But it's time for Peterson, the dog, and I to get out of this wreck and take a closer look at what we found in here. Back on shore, we're able to take a second to look at Admiral Hawkes' uniform and see how it fits on our player character. So we're going to take off this old school diving suit available through the Far Harbor DLC and take a look at what the always fashionable Enclave military was dressing their admirals in. With damage reduction of 35 and a couple of special stats thrown in, this suit isn't overpowered by any means, and I do see a little bit of clipping on the front leg that we might not see on a male character or an unmodded female character. I'm not so sure about that, but the rest of the outfit works pretty well. It flows pretty good on the move, and I do like this urban camo look. It's a little different, so there you go. That's a look at Admiral Hawkes' uniform. There for the taking in the U.S.S. Liberator. Now our next stop on the trail to Outpost Zulu leads us to the glowing sea, and we're going to need some rad protection. So I'm heading back to the U.S. Army Depot, and I'm going to pick up our XO2 power armor from the Enclave XO2 power armor mod by Cypher. This stuff just looks good. It's going to take us out to the glowing sea in style. Now, as many of you know, there is also a Creation Club version of the XO2 Power Armor. For some of my wonderful viewers, the Creation Club version of the XO2 Power Armor might be the only kind available. If you're playing on a console that's not super mod friendly like PlayStation, for example, you can still have XO2 through Creation Club content, and I will be featuring that soon. We are now headed to the Federal Supply Cache out in the glowing sea. This is a location that's there all the time, but in the Lima Detachment mod, it's also the location of the secret hatch that leads us to the Zulu outpost. You know, it's been a little while since I blew anything up, so I'm going to take the option of flipping this circuit breaker here and releasing these protectrons. One of them is legendary. I'm going to use the kiloton rifle from the Far Harbor DLC. It just puts on quite a show. Okay, well, now that we got that out of the way, it's time for us to explore the hatch for the Zulu outpost. There we go, using the cache hatch key that we found in the Liberator. We are inside one of the Enclave's secret clandestine locations. Mr. Colonel Mustard mods never disappoint with the dramatic lighting, so I expect, yep, a few lights in our face and some formidable doors. Probably we'll have a few enemies in here. There's usually at least some resistance encountered in these Colonel Mustard mods. I don't know if we'll get it from the Enclave or some other faction occupying this bunker. Looks like this time it's turrets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are those sentry bots going to activate next? I don't really know. One of them looks kind of collapsed and the other one looks like it might function. We'll find out. Also, helpful directions on the floor of the base. That's actually kind of nice. Looks like there's a medical wing, and it looks like there is a barracks wing, and lastly there is a training wing. So we're going to explore each of those in turn, and we're just going to see what's here for us. Yeah, the sentry bot doesn't activate, so I guess we don't have to worry about that as we enter the barracks wing. Now remember, it's a Mr. Colonel Mustard mod. Of course, there was a lot of looting to be done in the rooms I'm passing through. I'm just not showing you all of it. Trust me, it's worth looking around. Alright, so a little more resistance in the form of some rad roaches, but so far this base seems pretty abandoned by actual Enclave personnel. We're in the barracks and I don't see anyone. Looks like the mess hall. As always, the Enclave mess halls live up to their name, but at least the Enclave keeps a lot of coffee on hand. I've noticed they have a lot of coffee makers. I can get behind an organization like that. I also see that they have a weekly food menu here that actually looks pretty good. And credit to Mr. Colonel Mustard for having these kinds of details in the mod. As we move on to some of the barracks, we find lots of lootable chests, but still no Enclave personnel. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on here or why everyone's missing, but they left a lot of their stuff around for us to take, so that's nice. While we're taking stuff, don't leave this room without grabbing the Federal Biolab card off this desk. You're going to need it. And speaking of cards we need a Federal Armory card to unlock the armory in the barracks wing. So we're probably going to find that in another wing here of this facility. We will try next the medical wing. That seems like a good one. Sounds important. We'll probably find some good stuff there. We use the Federal Bio card to get inside, and we find that they've been doing FEV experiments, as usual. A cell access card is here right on this table. Don't forget to grab that. You're going to need it to get inside any of the cells in this facility. Looking around, we're seeing security batons, handcuffs. Of course, their medical labs are more like prisons. Also, plenty of fun things to pick up and, FEV samples. Just wouldn't be the Enclave without it. I'm curious, as always, to check out a little more of their medical experimentation. So let's keep opening some doors and see what we find. Yep, corpses on tables, that's on brand. But this was worth coming here for, the Sigma Squad medical log on a holotape. Finally, maybe we'll get some answers about who has been stationed here, what they've been doing here, and what happened to them, why they aren't around. Tyson Dawson, is the leader of Sigma Squad, and it looks like he died after getting attacked by, I don't know, a Mirelurk queen or something, according to the transcript. We also see mention of something that kind of humanizes these Enclave soldiers, PTSD in Oscar Harriet, because he was the only one that survived from a previous squad he was in. So that kind of makes us feel for the guy a little bit. Something else we learn is that when T. Dawson, the leader of the squad, died, his armor was sent for decontamination. So that may be something we can find later. They mentioned it specially. The Federal Depot card is also here on this desk. Definitely worth checking out this part of the medical wing. With the Federal Depot card, we can now access the training wing. There's lots of lootable stuff here in the training wing, lots of equipment, lots of containers, of course. I'll just take a second to show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. See, it's just all here for the taking, folks. There is a terminal here with details about which equipment was issued to which members of the squad. I'll let you check that out for yourself if you love those kinds of details. They are here. But the rest of the tour is going to move on to the training facilities. Let's see here. Looks like we have a briefing room with a map. A very interesting map. I was trying to figure out, I see a big target on China. I see the Enclave symbol on the East Coast. And I see a few other districts with different colors highlighting them. I really don't know for sure what this means, but I find it pretty interesting. Now, if we check out the other adjacent doors next to the coffee, which they always have on hand, we see that they have a place here to do room clearing drills. So we're going to check that out. It should be kind of cool to see. We're not going to check it out in full detail. I just want you to know that if you go deep enough into this area that is the facsimile of some kind of wasteland house, you will find the Federal Armory card. That's a thing worth picking up. You'll want to come back here for that in the training wing. In the training wing, it is also worth exploring some of the living quarters, because once you find the officer's barrack, you can grab some things off of his terminal, some passwords that are worth having. More specifically, the password for the armory, which is going to be fun to go get into. So that's our next stop. Inside Inside the armory, we find XO1 power armor, no surprise there. We see fusion cores on cool little holders that look like the heavy weapons holder thing, just miniaturized. That's kind of fun. And on this terminal, we find some weapon information and the control to unlock the decontamination bay, where we already read in another terminal entry should contain the Mark II power armor worn by Dawson, the commander of Sigma Squad, after his death. And yes, it looks special. Shock XO1. So this is like a Tesla version of XO1 power armor. Will I never learn? Why do I wear fancy power armor into a Mr.ColonelMustard mod, where I will almost definitely find some kind of collectible power armor I want to take with me? My solution was pulling all those power armor pieces off of the frame and just hauling them out here with me, because there's no way I'm leaving my XO2 behind, right? Now, it looks as though we've explored this entire facility and we've seen all there is to see in this mod, but that is not the case, because on our way out the door, Mr.ColonelMustard had a surprise for us. In a shocking twist, we wake up groggy with a splitting headache. We've been abducted. We're in a prison cell. Thank you, Mr.ColonelMustard, for keeping the surprises coming. I love this. I don't love losing my XO2 power armor, though, because where did that go? When am I ever going to learn not to wear my best power armor into a Mr.ColonelMustard mod? When? It does appear, though, that I have most of my inventory, including the power armor pieces that we took off of that frame, the Shock XO1. But I'll have to worry about all that later, because right now, we gotta bust out of jail. I don't know yet how to get past this force field, but I'm loaded for bear once I do, so these guys are in trouble. Now, once I look around the cell, I find that a drifter that was here has an Enclave decryptor on them. They must have broken into an Enclave-like facility thinking they could get some scrap or something and been taken by these Enclave guys, but not frisked. You know, they tend to overlook that. Now, the other thing they overlook is that these energy shields of theirs let them come through the shield just enough for me to take them out. Boy, they don't call this plasma rifle Vengeance for nothing, do they? So we're just going to hack the photonic resonance barrier, which I guess is what that force field is, and let ourselves out of this little cell. And now the Enclave guys here are in trouble. You know, I'm sure I outrank most of them, and I'm about to bring some serious pain on this remnant group. Examining this terminal here, we find out that there were 3 cells. One had me in it, and one had a gulper in it, and one had an angler in it. So there's the gulper, and in the next one is the angler. I just can't figure out what the Enclave was so concerned about with those 2 species here in this cell block. But, you know, it's the Enclave. They're probably doing some kind of virus research or fauna research or something. Now, once we come out here, we encounter some resistance. These guys come apart pretty fast. This is the X9, you know, Vengeance plasma rifle that was given to me by the Enclave on the oil rig, and it kicks some serious butt. It's a little bit overpowered, but I think it's time for me to really get overpowered with one of the Gatling lasers and head into the Cryo Tech and Biolab area to wreak some serious havoc on these people. The only question is, which area do I go to first? Cryo Lab? Well, I guess the Biolab, since they came to me. Oh boy. You know, none of this was personal for me until I found out that these guys were picking on my dog with a cattle prod, and then I got angrier than PETA. Yeah, I feel good about that. So what were we doing again? Oh, right, looking for clues to get out of here. Well, we don't see very much in the bio lab, so we're moving on to the tech lab to see what we can find in this area. The tech lab, mostly robotics type stuff, with some great looting and some interesting finds. Looting like what you see in this crate is all over the place in this mod. But I also see a storage drive like the kind found in the Far Harbor DLC for Dima. And if you're hurting for legendary weapons, there's a legendary plasma rifle sitting right here for you. The P94 Enclave plasma rifle. 50% more damage against ghouls, which kind of makes sense. Now, upon first inspection, I didn't see much else in the tech lab of interest. All these servers are pretty cool, and then there's this terminal that has just basically factual technical information about plasma weaponry. Like you can see here, this breakdown of the plasma rifle. So if you're into that, read more on it, but we're moving on. It's time for us to check out the Cryo Lab. This might be the most interesting area of the 3. We find cryopods like there were in Vault 111. We find Cryolator ammunition. In this terminal, we find basically just technical specs about cryo weaponry. So I guess that's kind of interesting for us too. But I'm feeling like even the cryo lab was a bit of a bust. What am I missing? How do we get out of here? One area we haven't explored is the mess hall and barracks, so let's check that out. Looks like they are occupied, so we got to take this Enclave soldier out. My penetrating institute rifle isn't quite the same kind of knockdown power as the plasma rifle I have, or the laser Gatling, but every now and then you just gotta give your enemies a sporting chance, you know? Where's the fun in always rolling with your most OP stuff? But the mess hall was no help, so we're gonna check out the barracks and see if that's where the key that I'm missing to this puzzle is hiding. The barracks are pretty empty though. There's plenty here to loot, so go ahead and do that, but I didn't find the secret here. Because the thing is, we have to get the password for this terminal before we can move into the next section, and I don't know where that is for sure. But I searched for a while. It was frustrating. I'm here to save you that frustration. I went back to the tech lab, and there I found on a desk the Sector 3 password. So there you go, tech lab, dark corner, on a desk. You're welcome. Now, with that password, we are able to get into the next section of this bunker, outpost, prison, lab, whatever Site Delta is, and walk straight into an ambush. Well, nobody said the Enclave liked to fight fair. And for a while I was coming at them with my weakest ranged weapon, this Institute rifle, but then it occurred to me, I'm in the Enclave. I don't have to fight fair. So I pulled out my laser Gatling, as any good Enclave member would, and tore through them like they weren't even there. So in this new section, we see barracks, which we can't get into, we see a war room, and we see the door we need to go through that will require a password. So I guess it's going through the war room for us.
Let's do this.
I admire their moxie. And, you know, that was a well-placed plasma grenade. I actually need to use a stim pack for that. But now that we've wiped them out, let's check out what's inside the war room here, shall we? Most of this really shouldn't surprise us. Lots of loot. So big maps, some computer terminals, hopefully useful ones. Let's see. Looks like we have the missions that Site Delta here was supposed to be all about. FEV strains for biolabs and transforming the local area with a GEC. So we know what they're doing here now, but we don't know how to get out of here yet. I guess we got to keep looking. A bit more exploration brings us to a boardroom, and this proves fruitful. Plenty of enemies. I definitely haven't been here yet. I think we're on the right track. A little investigation shows us this is a fancy place where decisions are made, and also that we have been gunning down Enclave congressmen. Oops. Anyway, moving on to the next room, we find a podium and another Enclave congressman who I promptly gunned down. I didn't vote for him. And as we investigate around here, it turns out that there is a terminal with all of the president's speeches on it. So if you want to read all those, go right ahead. They're kind of long. And then up at the podium is where you'll want to go because it has a hidden switch behind it that lets us into a secret room. You know the Enclave, secrets within secrets within secrets. Now that little button took me a while to find, and I'm really glad to be able to share its location with you and save you the time because that buys you some time to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button so that I can keep bringing you time-saving tips. Now here we move on through a vault-like door, I like this, nice touch, into some kind of hidden secret elevator to who knows where. But of course we're going to get on this elevator and we're going to find out where. I'd also like to find out where my dog went. But let's just take things one step at a time, I guess, right? We're going to go through this next bulkhead and we're going to find out what is waiting for us in the command, control, and president's quarters. The answer is creepy statue heads and one of these photo resonance barriers. Once we hack through that, we find more enemies. At least that part's easy to deal with. Alright, you're going down, buddy, but I'm going to do you the dignity of shooting you with my Institute rifle and at least making it look like it's kind of a hard fight. Entering the next room, our options are Command Control, the President's Quarters, and Auxiliary Mainframe. We're going to sashay into Command Control with confidence as if we own the place and take out whoever gets in our way. That happens to be some Enclave senators and one of these photo barrier thingies. I hate to tell these guys, but when they crowd the barrier like they do, I have such an easy time taking them out. Well, that was Colonel Anderson. He sounded important. Now you watching at home might be thinking, this is kind of cheap, but it is the Enclave way. I mean, they would have done it to me. So now that they're all dealt with, let's just take down this photonic resonance barrier that mostly just helped me. And let's see what we've got here. Colonel Anderson, High Command Safe Key. Nice. And Colonel Anderson's uniform. I like that. Looks like a couple of jackpots. Now we look around the war room and we don't see much, but there is the coffee machine. Maybe I'll hit that up in a minute. If you're wondering what's on the monitors, they're the speeches from the President's Terminal earlier that you could read in fuller detail when you play through this mod yourself. In the safe, we find pre-war money, watches, and Sector 2 password. That's the important part. That's the thing we needed to escape the facility, which is our next quest directive. Before we leave, though, we have a couple places to check out. Remember the auxiliary mainframe and the President's quarters. We haven't inspected those yet, so first, the mainframe. Couple of people to take care of. Once they're down, we just waltz right in there and we see what we're dealing with. Let's see. Not much. I feel optimistic that the armor depot is going to be more rewarding, and as I walk in and see XO1 power armor in bays along the walls, I'm suddenly hopeful that my XO2 power armor that they stripped from me when they imprisoned me here will be waiting in one of these spots, but it's not. So that was a bit of a letdown. On to the President's quarters, which are not much of a letdown. These look fabulous. The design by Mr.ColonelMustard is amazing. I see the Hellfire power armor helm on the bookshelf too. That's kind of a nice inclusion. Another nice inclusion is the model of the U.S.S. Liberator style submarine over here in the display case. Nice nod to that earlier piece of the mod. Of course, our inspection wouldn't be complete unless we checked out the President's desk here. It looks like on the terminal that the President was working on drafts of some speeches for the future. You can read through the drafts. They're really pretty interesting. I'm not going to spend our time on that here, but let me give you a little preview of what they're about. Government, baseball, rebuilding the wasteland, and children of the wasteland. That's the list. Now that we're in the President's bedroom, when we look around, we find the only clothing is a cream dress, and over in his other dresser, a red dress. So maybe we've got some kind of J. Edgar Hoover sort of thing going on here? I don't know. The bedroom really is pretty swanky. A nice stop on our tour of the Enclave would-be White House. But I don't find anything especially important here, so we're moving on. And moving on means heading back the way we came, back up the secret elevator and back out toward our Site Delta Sector 1 terminal that we need to get through. And we walk straight into another firefight where, once again, I'm put in the odd position of feeling sorry for the guys in the XO1 power armor as I mow through them. Wait a minute, was that my dog they were beating up on? Oh, that's it. I do not feel sorry for them anymore. Gloves off, guys. You brought the Samuel L. Jackson righteous fury down on yourselves this time. Hate it when they mess with my dog. Okay, before we get out of here, let's check out these archives. Some of you might find this pretty interesting. There's this whole history of what's going on in the Enclave at several locations. The capital, Chicago, and California. You can read up on that if you're interested in some of that lore. Now we're going to head into the infirmary where some enemies are hiding, but I know how to lure them out. Hey, look! A dog in need of abuse! Quick! Come beat it up! Yeah, that worked. That's right, guys. Step out here and get what's coming to you. Why don't you try that electric dog zapper on me, buddy? Yeah, that felt right. That felt right. Now let me show you something that I think fits right in with the Enclave that I discovered in this infirmary. It's the kind of thing that a high-tech faction like them or maybe the Institute should have, and this mod added it. I present to you the Autodoc Mark 9. It's a doctor that just heals your afflictions without charging you caps. How great is that? Heal wounds, limbs, cure all addictions, cure radiation. Awesome. Why isn't that in more places? And finally, exterior doors. That's right. We are out of here. Home free. Goodbye Site Delta. We find this force field that's near the Lone Wanderer's final resting place that we encountered in, what, video 2, I think, of this series? There's only one officer left in it, so we take him out. There's nothing special to loot off of his corpse. We really just need to get the heck out of Dodge while we're taking all this radiation. I actually really enjoyed the twist of being taken captive by surprise. I actually didn't see that coming, and I kind of loved it. Now let's head back to the Army Depot and take a look at the spoils of victory. Now I hope you didn't forget about the XO1 shock power armor that I managed to bring out of that whole mess with me. Upon further study, it's basically XO1 armor with the Tesla variant, like the T60 Tesla armor, but XO1. The left arm seems to be the most important piece for that, if the text is to be believed, but I'm not sure. I guess I'd keep it all together because it just looks good. This mod did provide us with a lot of good looking stuff, didn't it? From this mod we could have gotten T-51 Anchorage series power armor, we could have gotten Elder Lion's T-45 power armor, we could have gotten Remnant X-01 armor, we could get the X-01 shock armor, and it's not just power armors. There was NCR clothes, there was Colonel Anderson's duster, there was Admiral Hawkes' outfit, and a multitude of other things that if you like the Enclave and if you like dressing your character in an Enclave theme, Lima Detachment is really going to help you do that. Not to mention a laundry list of amazing Enclave bases at your disposal with things like fusion core rechargers, coffee makers, automatic doctors, and so on available to you. If you haven't downloaded this mod yet, I hope you're about to, because even though it took me 4 videos to try to walk you through this experience, there is so much left that I wasn't even able to touch. When you get into this on your own, your experience is going to be so much bigger and better. I just can't recommend it enough. Now, if you've been enjoying my videos and the content I've been making for you, and that's been a good experience, please take a second to like this video, show your support, and if you're one of my viewers who isn't already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. Making these videos is a lot of work, but you all make it so worth it when you take a second to show your support. As always, I have more videos in the works for you, and I will see you in the next one.